What is up, everybody? How's your night going? Welcome to the first episode of Theorycraft Thursday, where I'm going to be going over some ideas, that I've either done some research on or some things that I've talked to, others about, whether it's on Twitter, in the Discord. And today is about breeding. So I've been researching this for a little while, and it was kind of confirmed in the last Zed Heads episode posted on YouTube that the most successful horses so far, and this is a general statement, this isn't an absolute statement, but Buterin on Buterin hasn't been the most successful when it comes to breeding racers. And I have some ideas on that, but we're just going to kind of jump straight into this. So, the four bloodlines, for those who don't know, you have your Nakamotos, your Zabos, your Finnies, and your Buterins. All we really know for sure at this point in time is that Nakamotos are supposed to be the purest when it comes to genotype purity. That's signified by their low Z number, and there is a limited amount of Nakamotos. There is just as few Nakamotos as there is Zabos in the entire game. I have a little bit description here of where they're supposed to be coming from a little bit. So that's kind of interesting. They have a huge jump, 10% decrease in genotype purity. That's pretty high. But if you think about it, Z1 to Z3, that's a pretty big jump anyways. So same thing, your 10% drop off from the previous. It's interesting that they do say that the Finnies are they're consistently able to perform toe-to-toe with the top-line competitors, such as Nakamoto. The fact that they reference the Finnies against Nakamotos, I find that very fascinating, and we'll kind of see how that plays out. And then you have your Buterins, the most plentiful. There is more Buterins than anything. And if you look at the breeding chart, whenever you breed anything into a Buterin, you get a Buterin. So the way that was set up is it doesn't matter if it's the male, it doesn't matter if it's the female. The lower bloodline takes over in the signifier. But we're just going to go straight into some of these horses, right? So Steph Curry, he's a pretty famous horse. Horse is a monster. 8 odds average for an elite. That's one of the best elites in the game. He has won a total of 16 ETH. So that's a ton of money. 34% ROI. I think it's a strong horse. 17% win rate or 1,700 races. If you look at his family tree, exactly what we were just talking about has played out. So you have a Buterin Genesis mother who was bred into a stacked Nakamoto line. Dad was an exclusive Nakamoto who comes from a Genesis mom and legendary Z2, which means that the parents have to be Z1s. So we have three generations of Nakamotos being bred into Steph Curry here, which is that Nakamoto on Genesis. If we go to Vanilla Bean, another really famous horse. I tried to pick horses that people would recognize the names of and a couple that maybe you don't. So that we can kind of make up your own mind. But we have Vanilla Bean, average odds of 7. I personally believe that Vanilla Bean is the best bred horse in the game so far. If you take Vanilla Bean against any other horse and put them in 100 races at random distances, I take Vanilla Bean on the results. And this isn't a stacked horse, but you have a Z1 Genesis bred in with a Z10. So one of the common themes as we see is something from the father side being bred in to a lower class or a lower bloodline, and low Z number. I think the Z number is really going to be a huge important signifier in the future. We don't know exactly what that means, but I think maintaining the lowest possible Z number is going to be important, which is a pretty big consensus across the board. You have this new beast bred out of Centribus Stables, Nightshade. He talks a lot more about Steam, but I believe Nightshade's probably either the better horse or the more well managed horse. And damn fruit fly. But yeah, almost an 18% win rate over 67 races. You got a low Z number, legendary, and a willing luck. Same thing. You have a Z9 Genesis filly, who's a monster in her own right, being bred with a Z2 Genesis Nakamoto. So, Nakamoto breeding into the lower bloodline once again. Black Swan. I've thankfully not seen Black Swan, but here's a case where you have an exclusive Finney, who's a 21% win rate over 100 races, which is insane. And this one's, you have your Genesis Finney mare, and then you have your 2-generation Nakamotos over on this side. Looks like everything's unraced here, 1 race win, and a subpar Finney mom, but it's still playing out. I know it's becoming repetitive, but I really want to drive this point home. You have Where Are You, Jan Rod? Almost 250 races, 17% win rate. So good. Another exclusive. You're looking at Z12 exclusive. And then you have stacked Nakas over here. So 2 generations Nakamotos, bred into Genesis, and yeah. And then you got Waffles, another exclusive Z15 Buterin. It's pretty low. Closing in on 300 races with nearly 17% win rate. This one is a little bit different. So this one is actually, you have 2 generations of Nakamotos on the mom side that bred in with a Genesis filly. And then you have that mare, who's a low Z mare for a Buterin. It's a 3rd generation horse with a Z12, being bred in with a Genesis Zabo Tonto Spirit here, which still gives us a low Z exclusive Buterin. So, 15 on the xenotype for a 4th generation horse, that's pretty low. But this one was an outlier. It might not be an outlier. Some of the more famous horses that I just don't know about, this might be the case. But if we think about it, it was a Buterin being bred with a Genesis Zabo. And before that, we had no significant winners. So the cross bloodlines happened on the mom side, but the downbreeding came from the dad side. The dad came down into a Buterin and created Waffles, which I have raced against. I don't remember where. I think I was going up in class to just kind of play around a little bit. Don't recommend doing that. Really hurts your horse. But another, sleight of hand, exclusive Finney, 18% win rate over 1,700 races. That's ridiculous. 51% ROI. It's a strong horse. But this is a slightly different case where you have, a Finney and a Finney coming together. But on the mom side, the mom has the step-down breeding. So you have the Zabo breeding into the Genesis Finney, creating the Finney mare. And then you just kind of stick with the same bloodline, and it produced a beast. And then this guy, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name. But once again, 250 races, 50% win rate. Absolute monster. And exact same story. So we got multiple generation Nakamotos stacked across the board. On the mom side, you actually have a Zabo Nakamoto mix. to produce your exclusive Zabo. Nothing, you got billions up top, and then other than that, nothing too crazy when it comes to win percentages. So you got the billions up top, and then the Genesis mom being downbred father to produce this Z15 monster. So this doesn't always play out, that well. If we look at my horse Cheeks, who's a first generation, Cheeks is a funny horse. She's the one who does not like to lose. But if we look at the bloodline, right, you have a Genesis Nakamoto Z2 and a Z9, both, good horses. I believe when I picked up Cheeks, Whisper Proof was sitting at a 12% win rate, and but still negative ROI. So, just because you have a winning horse, depending on your cash pools that you do win in, does not mean that you're going to have a profitable horse. Cheeks was profitable not too long ago, even with only coming in seconds. But then I threw in some more races to get some more data. And then you have Captain Gerald, who is a Buterin mom. So downbreeding doesn't always play out. Now, I have a theory that Cheeks will be a pretty decent breeder of something. I just got to figure out what the right mix is. But for the vast majority of the horses, going Buterin into Buterin doesn't produce the 20% win rate monsters, the 15+ win rate monsters. I didn't pull up a lot of cases, but I do have another horse, Camille, who's actually my favorite horse because she's the first horse that was bred in-house. She's not doing bad right now. But if we look at her family tree, she's a Buterin into Buterin. The thing is, though, her odds, she averages like 9 odds. She's not in the 8s, she's not in the 7s. If you guys do have a Buterin that's, pure Buterin bred, whether it's stacked or first generation, that is, pulling 7, 8 odds on a regular basis, go ahead and send me that in the chat because I'd love to do the research. Really, I'm just trying to create conversations about what's possible in Zed Run, so that way everybody has an even playing field on some of the information that's out there. But from the most part, we're seeing that the step down breeding. Now, one of the things that I can't remember where it was said, it might have been Zed Gazette during an interview, but he said at some point in time it was leaked that Nakamotos only have access to 50% of their own DNA. And if they're a 91 to 95% purity and they only have access to 50% of the potential gene pool, that means they either need to be cross-combined with other horses, being Nakamotos, or maybe that's where the step-down breeding really takes into full effect. Now, what I was saying earlier, with most Genesis Nakamotos and offspring of Nakamotos, even if they're not a high winner, they're a very consistent horse. They don't lose a whole lot. You don't see a lot of huge U-shaped Nakamotos from what I've been seeing. You do have your Genesis ones that are standouts. I think that looking at Genesis horses right now and their race performance is going to be a moot point in the future. I think once we get more breeding in, we get, deeper bloodlines, and we kind of figure out how breeding works, that really looking at Genesis performance, they're not going to be the horses that we're talking about in, 2 years. They're going to be the legends of the game, but they're not going to be the current top performers. That being said, though, when you look at Buterins, normally you have a horse that's really, really strong, in a single race or a group of races. So if we just go to Know Your Horse, I'm going to look up Charlie Chevelle. And there's actually a better website to show you this. But we'll look at Charlie, right? Like, he has really low odds across the board. but I can't remember what his website's name is, so we're just going to do it this way. So MJ Stables has a really good tool for looking at where your horse should be racing. This tool is not, however, to grade your horse and tell you how good your horse is. Oh man, I cannot type today. Charlie Cheval. So look at Charlie's here. Once it comes up, it did not come up. There it goes. Charlie has preferred distances of 22 and 2400. I believe he had the 20. I know he had one of these records for a long period of time, but his preferred distances there are a 250 score and a 217. That's a really, really high. That means those races he should absolutely be running in. And he's at 20% win rate in those, average odds of 6 in those as well. And then when you look at, say another horse like Grander. He's a little bit more well-rounded. He can race in a couple different distances, but he's not as preferred, right? Like a 250 preferred score, once you start learning how to use this tool, is insane. Like Camille has a 44% win rate at 1200 right now over her first 7 races, and she's only a preferred distance of a 1 on this, so that's silly. Long story short, though, it looks like Nakamotos are more consistent. They're not as highly specialized. And Buterins are highly specialized, super fast, in 1 to 3 distances. And I think that's where you get the consistency of a Nakamoto and a horse like a Steph Curry and a Vanilla Bean. And some of these other monsters that we're seeing. And you breed it into the speed of the Buterin, and you're producing, monsters in that way. But that's really all I have on this. Like I said, I just want to make a really quick video on it. If you have your own theories, you have your own ideas, you have something you want me to research, please leave a comment or hit me up on Discord. I love theory crafting, and I'm always up for a good conversation on what could be. I have a couple of theories that are completely crazy that I absolutely don't think that are true, but they're going to be fun to talk about in the future. I really like playing the what if game. So appreciate everybody who's stuck around so far. Like, subscribe, like I said, leave a comment. What do you want to see more? Tell me how wrong I am. And I'll do a more detailed deep dive on this in the future. I just kind of wanted to get the conversation rolling and see what other opinions and other things people have been talking about. And definitely, if you have a horse you want me to look at, I'm not great on appraising horses. I don't know what the value of horses are, but I do like deep diving horse data and kind of seeing where everybody stands. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.